Harmon will probably try to squib it, and he does. Ball comes loose, and the Bears have to get out of bounds. Rogers along the sideline, another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end. The Bears! The Bears have won! The Bears have won! Oh, my God! The most amazing...
So that's a little background for you guys. So I actually, when the play happened in 1982, I was waiting to hear back from Cal, and a couple months later I got my acceptance here. So I started at Cal 40 years ago, which seems insane to me. I don't even feel like I'm 40 years old, even though I'm sure I look it. But my time at CRU was just absolutely amazing. How many of you were familiar with the play that you saw up there? Like 40% maybe? Wasn't it unbelievable? Does it make you proud to be a Cal student? Yeah. To be on the winning side of that? So unbelievable. I got involved in Berkeley CRU my sophomore year. I wish I would have found CRU my freshman year, but I just never heard about it. And I was one of the people involved in restarting the fraternity that you saw the photo of there. And the reason I got involved is because there were a lot of CRU guys that were base members of the house. And I don't think I would have been in the house if it weren't for that, because it just wasn't really my thing. But the guy who was the advisor for it was in my fraternity at the University of Arizona, so he was also a staff member here. So that's why he drew from a lot of Cal people. And one of the other special things about the house is, much like you guys here, it was very diverse, which is unheard of at Cal and any campus really that I'm aware of. We were about half white, half everything else, and we learned so much from each other and had such a great time with each other. And it taught us lessons that we took through the rest of our life. And that was such a special thing because the campus here then was so fractured racially. Everybody was in their own groups. They didn't interact with each other. They didn't like each other. That was when the apartheid movement was going on and Nelson Mandela was leading the fight to end apartheid. And it was just really special to be able to come together with people that were so different and so diverse and learn from each other. And especially a lot of them being people that believe in the Lord too. There are a lot of reasons why the ministry at CRU was especially impactful for me. When I accepted the Lord, I was a little kid. I was 7 years old at the time. And I was really blessed to be a part of a church that was with people that really lived out their faith. And that's kind of uncommon these days. You see people in church and then you see them during the week and they're just a totally different person, whether they're your age or whether they're adults. But these were people that lived out their faith every day. So I took that with me every day in my life, even at a very young age. And my faith guided me in a lot of important decisions in my life. And you're at a stage in life where you're making a lot of important decisions too. I learned really early on that the way a lot of people find their way to God, or probably most people, is through other Christians and the way that we live our lives. It's so important. And that's why I love the theme that you guys came up with this year for Berkeley CRU. First things first, what does a God-centered life actually look like? And your theme verse, Colossians 3:17, and whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. I love how you're embracing the idea of working through your faith and how do I live that out on a daily basis. Not just what do I believe, but how do I live it? How do I represent it? I grew up 20 minutes from Berkeley in the town of Moraga, where St. Mary's College is. And it was a great place to grow up, but it was also a place where people were very comfortable. And something that I've learned over the years is that comfortable people often don't look outside themselves for greater meaning. They don't look to God. They don't look within themselves. They're just comfortable. And nobody that I knew that I went to high school with went to church or to youth group at all. Nobody. So I was on my own when it came to that. And I had a great group of friends that we were always getting into mischief and pulling pranks. I'm still pulling pranks to this day. My son Ryan here, he will tell you that. Although he hasn't been the victim of too many of them. I've been pretty easy on him, I think. But his mom, on the other hand, has been the victim of some classic pranks. I won't get into those here, though. Maybe if I speak here another time. It's so important that the people that know that you're somebody that believes in God sees somebody that attracts them to him. And I knew, especially being the only guy, literally the only guy all these people knew that was committed in my faith, eyes were on me. And having a great group of friends was great, but it became a lot more difficult junior year when they discovered the concept of fake IDs. And our social life changed quite a bit at that point in time. Instead of the fun, silly, innocent stuff that we did, it really centered around people getting blasted on weekends and stuff. And I was always a guy that always had FOMO, and I still do. I never want to miss out on fun. So I wasn't going to be the guy sitting home on Friday and Saturday night while they were out doing their stupid stuff. So I was the designated driver, and I was making sure that they weren't getting too stupid. And I was having fun with them and joking around with everyone like I always do. But I didn't need liquid courage to have fun and talk with people. People just want you to be yourself. And so I was able to send that message that as a Christian, I didn't have to be a boring person that somebody didn't want to associate with because I was doing something different than them. But I could have fun just like they were without compromising who I was and without doing stupid things that I would regret the next day. And that sent a really good message. I didn't always feel the admiration all the time, but by the time high school was over, people were like, man, I wish I could have made some of the decisions that you did. Even if they weren't people that believed in God, they just wished they could have made better choices because they felt like they were going down a road that they wouldn't have necessarily gone down if they made their own choices. So when I came to Cal and I got involved in CRU, suddenly I had a lot of friends who were Christians, and that was really cool for me because I never had that. And I learned so much from my time in the ministry here. One of the biggest points of emphasis was being able to clearly understand and communicate concisely and clearly what I believe and what we believe as Christians. And we had a little pamphlet that we used for that. You have a different name for it now. It used to be called the 4 Spiritual Laws. And it summarized in 4 quick, easy points who we are to God, what the dilemma is with sin in the world, that Jesus came to pay for that sin, and if we asked him to be a part of our lives, he could pay for that sin in our lives, and we could have a personal relationship with him. And to be able to easily convey that was really important, because I had been a Christian for over a decade, very committed, but I had no clue how to share that with other people. Where in the world do I start? That was awesome. And one of the other great things about CRU was getting involved in summer projects. How many of you, or have any of you been on a summer project or summer mission here before? Yes. Well, if you hear about them later this semester, I highly recommend you thinking about it. Some of the photos that you saw in there with the crazy costumes and the beach football, all of that was things that we did on our summer project. So what we would do is we would go down for 10 months. We'd have staff members there leading it for the first half, the first 5 weeks, and then we would take over after that. And we would share our faith on the beach. And you think, well, man, share your faith on the beach? No way am I going to do something like that. That's terrifying. And I don't want to creep people out. And well, what we would do is we would break stereotypes. We would do these fun, crazy things that everybody enjoyed watching. They'd laugh, they'd gather around. These guys are fun. I want to hang out with them. And then after it, we would say we're a group of college students from all over the country, and we also happen to be Christians. So we don't just love God, we love fun, and we love people. And if you want to stick around a little bit and hear what it means to be a Christian, we'd love to talk with you. And we would do spiritual surveys where, it's a very non-imposing thing where we would ask, hey, do you mind taking a spiritual survey for us? We're with a youth group on college campuses, and they'd say, oh, yeah, sure. And the last question was always, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say the odds are of you ending up in heaven after your life is over, assuming there is a heaven? And we would get pretty typical answers. I'm a pretty good person, 6 or 7 maybe, 2, I'm a screw up. And we'd get all kinds of answers. And then we would end with, well, if there was a way that you could go from a 2 to a 10, would you be interested in knowing how to do it? And we would then share those 4 points with them. And it was really cool the way that people were open to hearing about God. And, maybe they just kind of filed it away mentally and they never did anything with it. Maybe that spurred them to get involved with church. Some of them actually literally prayed with us on the beach. Just amazing stuff. So getting involved with CRU and the summer projects and everything, that was a life changer for me in more ways than one. As you can see from the slideshow, I met my wife on the second one. The first one I was on was in Hawaii. That's when you saw the photos from. And my second one was in San Diego, and my wife was there. And just a little more than a year before that, she was a full-blown atheist. She made fun of Christians. She had volleyball teammates that were Christians, and she scoffed at them. She thought that they were just ignorant and oblivious and just mocked them. And they, in turn, loved her and treated her with respect. And that broke down her walls. And by Easter Sunday of her senior year of high school, she just said, God, I believe if you'll accept me, I want to give my heart to you. And so she did. And a year later, she's on the summer mission trip, sharing her faith on the beach. It just shows unbelievably how God can work in a person's life. And we've been married 33 years now. So when we got married, we asked my father to share words of advice at our wedding ceremony. And one of the biggest pieces of advice he gave was to be involved in some kind of a ministry. And not just necessarily coming to one like this, but being in this and then doing something with it. Going out into the community and sharing your faith or doing something. And that really struck a chord with us. And so just a little while after we got married, we started leading a middle school youth group for 5 years. And it's been so cool to see how they have grown up and become established in their faith. One who was probably the biggest troublemaker we ever had is now the campus pastor at New Life Church in Alamo, which is a church I go to a lot. 2 are principals at Christian high schools. So many have gone on to do really cool things in their faith. And that's just been a real blessing to see. We transitioned from that to leading a young marrieds small group Bible study. And we did that for a number of years. And then one day, 20 years ago, we decided to check out Moraga Valley Presbyterian Church, which is the sister church of First Pres here, First Pres Berkeley. And our daughter was in the preschool there called the Nursery. And it happened to be what was called Mexico Sunday. And it was a Sunday where all the students had returned from a week of building homes for families in need in Tijuana. And these people were they're living in squalor. I mean, a lot of them, they're living in like 4 garage doors nailed together and a couple garage doors for a roof and no windows and doors, just curtains hanging, dirt floors, enough power for 1 lamp and a little black and white TV or something. And we're building them a 2-bedroom house with a concrete foundation and stucco walls and windows and locking doors. And we do that all in a week. And that has been an amazing experience. And when I saw all these students in the community that I grew up in, where nobody went to church, nobody went to youth group, there's like 120 students just fired up in their faith. And I knew immediately that I had to get involved in that. And I've been involved for 20 years now, and I've been on the last 16 Mexico home building trips. It'll be 17 this April when we do it on spring break this year. And it would be 19, except COVID killed the last 2. And it also really hurt the ministry. We took 220 students from Miramonte, Camp Lino, and Acalanes the last 2 full years, and then we came back this year finally, and we had 76. So, and our youth group went from like 70 down to about 15. So man, it is hard building up from COVID, but it's something that we're going to keep plugging away at, and it looks like we're going to have over 100 on this trip, and I'm really excited about that too. One of the reasons why I love youth ministry so much, especially doing it in the community that I grew up in, is because I went to the same schools as them. I went through a lot of the same things as them. And even though you may think, oh man, 40 years ago, that must have been really different. It wasn't that different. I mean, we didn't have cell phones and social media, but the interactions, the way we looked, all of it was pretty similar. And so I was able to share a perspective with them that I went through a lot of the same things that you did in the same schools, but yet I was able to stand firm to my convictions and my faith and to make the right decisions, and yet not be rejected by other people for being different, because everybody's scared about being different. If I don't go along with the crowd, will they accept me? Will they still respect me? But if you conduct yourself in a way that is loving to other people, that's like a magnet. It's an attraction to them. Doing our home building mission trip is so special to me because I get to set an example of an adult that fully loves Jesus and loves life and loves them too. And a lot of them have told me over the years that they're scared of becoming an adult because they don't want to be bored in life. They don't want life to be dull, and they see this 58-year-old goofball who's pulling pranks on them and loving life and having so much fun and loving God, that it's inspirational to them, and that to me means so much. And one of the things that's apparent during those week of working together is we share during our lunchtime. We have questions of the day, and a lot of them get into things that let them open up and share some of the things that they're dealing with. And boy, it's so apparent how much depression, anxiety, pain, insecurity that so many have. And you would think, oh, this guy is so popular, this girl is so popular, they're such a great athlete, they've got it all together. They don't have to deal with that stuff like I do. And then you find out in that week, they go through all the same stuff that you're going through. And for them to be able to unburden themselves is huge. And to get support and love from their peers, that's huge. And something that's really important to realize is that, yeah, we know about there being a God in heaven. We talk about him all the time. We want him in our life. But we don't really talk so much about the fact that there's an enemy. There's Satan. And that is harder to talk about because, Satan has been portrayed as this little red man with a pitchfork. And, oh, you believe in Satan? You can't believe in Satan? Come on. But, he is the source of all that. He's the source of all the insecurity, and he's the source of the pain, and I'm not good enough, I don't measure up. He's the source of, if you're a Christian, oh, I don't know if I believe in that. Oh, this happened, that's not good. If God was loving, he wouldn't let that happen. He's the source of all of that. And we need to recognize in our own lives that there is an enemy that's seeking to screw us up all the time. One of the verses that's in the pamphlet that I mentioned is mentioned a lot. It's John 10:10, and it's the second half that's mentioned. It's, my purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. That's what Jesus said, or a full and meaningful life in another translation. We hear that, but the first half of the verse is, the thief's purpose is to kill and destroy. The thief being Satan. He wants to screw you up. He wants you to be unhappy. He wants you to be miserable. And we have to know that when these thoughts creep into our heads, it's not us. It's not how we fall short. It's the enemy. And the great part is that it's not left with that. The thief's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy. The other half is my purpose, Jesus' purpose, is to give a rich and satisfying life. That's absolutely huge. So one of my themes in life is being a stereotype breaker. You can see from the outreaches that we did on the beaches that we broke a lot of stereotypes that people might have had there about Christians being boring and unfun people. You guys need to be people that cure people of the misconception of what a Christian is. Some of you, what would you say your peers think of Christians? Can I have some examples? Yeah.
Colonizers.
Colonizers, like you segregate, or you try and grow your colony. Which? One of them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What else? Yeah.
Judgmental.
Judgmental, yeah. Uptight, right? Unwelcoming. All the exact opposite of who we really are and who we should be. As I mentioned, my dad talked about ministry, and it does not have to look like the way that you think it needs to look. You don't have to be a pastor to be in ministry. You don't have to be a missionary to be in ministry. There are so many ways that you can minister to other people and have a ministry. I do a lot of stuff. I'm a loan consultant. I help people buy homes by lending them money. I am a sports writer and editor for a website covering Cal sports called Bear Insider. And I'm a youth group volunteer. And I'm also a weekend designated driver, Uber driver. So I drive people from about 11 p.m. to 2, 3 a.m. I get them home safe, so they've been out partying, and I'm able to be a light to them. I joke with my friends that it's my Uber ministry. I can talk to somebody for 5 minutes and find out more about them than they've probably told people in years by just having fun, light conversations with them. I can't really outright share my faith because, with Uber or Lyft, they're going to get complaints from people that are uptight about religious issues. So, I try and open the door a little bit here and there. Like, people ask me what I do, and I always tell them about the youth ministry part and the Mexico home building trips, building for people in family in need in Tijuana. And they're like, oh, this is a guy that is serious about his faith, but he does things for people that don't have what he has. And that doesn't make me special. It doesn't make people on the trip special, but it sends a message that maybe they didn't see. It sends a message that he's not uptight. He's not one of those stereotypical people. And you guys all have the capability of doing that in so many different ways. So the discussion questions that I had for your discussion groups were, when you think about being committed in your faith, do you think about the rich and satisfying life that Jesus talked about? Or do you think about how you might not be accepted by others if you're seen as different, if you don't go along with the crowd? And the second one was, have you thought about ways you can live your everyday life and have an impact, even if you're not involved in ministry leadership? And I've given you guys some creative ways to do that. Think about that. Think about how you can impact other people in ways that even if you're not sharing your faith, you're being an encouragement to them. You're making them smile. I mean, I learned one of the most important lessons in my life from my roommate at Cal, Jeff. He was the MC at CRU my first year here. And everybody liked Jeff, and there was a good reason for it. And one of the things that I learned from him was that just watching him, he would give a soft smile to everybody he made eye contact with. Do you know what I mean by soft smile? It's where it's just like a friendly greeting smile, and it's not a full smile. It's like if somebody told me at that point in time, whenever you make eye contact with people, whether you know them or not, smile. I'd be like, what, you out of your mind? I'm not going to smile. They're going to think I'm crazy. But it was just a soft smile, a little smile. And it was a way of making eye contact and saying, I see you, how are you, without even necessarily saying anything. That changed my life, and I adopted that too. And I remember there was a girl in ministry here at, actually, she was on my Mexico home building trip in 2015, and she played water polo here from 15 to 19, and she got involved in Athletes in Action here, and she became one of the student leaders. She confessed in one of those lunchtime discussions that people disliked her because they thought she hated them, because she had RBF. She couldn't do anything about it. She couldn't do anything about it. And I said, you know what? I I kind of got a little bit of the same thing myself early on. I had the RAF, which is for a guy, resting a-hole face. Like, he hates me. He thinks I'm a loser. And I didn't, of course, but I learned the soft smile thing, which is a way I felt like communicating my love for God, and that changed completely. Nobody would accuse me of thinking like he doesn't like me, he's judging me anymore, because I'm a goofball that is going to smile at anybody that I see anywhere. I don't care who you are, and I'm going to have a great conversation with you in Uber. I don't care who you are either. So like I said, there's so many ways to live out your faith. I just challenge you, think about ways that God can use you. Think about ways that God can make you a blessing, whether you share your faith or not. It's something that you'll get such enjoyment and blessing from. And who knows, you may be the person that opens their eyes to God and shows them, hey, this is something that I want too. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate having the time to talk with you. And let me get a picture here. I'm a joke at doing selfies, so I'm not going to try that. I'm just going to take a picture.